It is time now to introduce the stars of today, and in the Australian corner, so to speak, a man who's had 29 professional fights for 26 wins, 23 by knockout. He's a two-time world champion. He's chasing another world title. You can see the IBO cruiserweight belt in front of him on the desk. That is the prize when he fights Julio Dominguez, coming up very shortly. We thought his boxing career was over, but thankful for boxing fans is the fact that he's come out of retirement to excite us all again. Already he's had one bout back from retirement, and it was a devastating second round demolition of Anthony Van Niekerk in Perth. People who saw that fight had no doubts that he'd made the right decision to come back from retirement, and he did the job that night. He hopes to do the job again in New Orleans, just around the corner. And you're fighting a real danger man. How much of a risk is it?
Oh, I don't see it as a risk. I see it as an exciting step to take, and obviously the reward for this fight is the IBO cruiserweight world title, my third world title, and in a third weight division. But also the real icing on the cake is to getting a fight with Roy Jones Jr. here in Australia, which I believe will be one of the biggest fights that's ever taken place on these shores. If I'm victorious and Roy's victorious against Jeff Lacey, then we'll be fighting down here in Australia.
Well, Danny, you mentioned how dangerous Dominguez is. We have some vision of your opponent in action, and as we have a look at him throwing some haymakers, I want to ask you how the match was made and what your reaction is to being on the Roy Jones Jr. promotion.
Oh, the match was made. This actually been in motion. Green Machine Boxing went into pretty much fourth gear as soon as I announced my comeback to the sport of boxing. Angela Hyder and Justin Manolicus, my manager who's taking care of my affairs, started negotiating with the IBO to try and get a crack at the cruiserweight title. I fought a cruiserweight last time, and they've made the title vacant because someone else relinquished the title. So therefore we knew it was available. So we started negotiating with the IBO to try and secure that title. So for me, it's a big opportunity to win another world title and really to fight in the United States on an undercard or as a co-main feature with the great Roy Jones Jr. against a very good opponent, Jeff Lacey, will be very, very exciting. I've fought overseas before. I've won world titles overseas. I'm not afraid to travel. I don't care if it's in my backyard or it's overseas. I don't care. I've got a pair of gloves. The opponent's in front of me. I'm ready to roll. Well, finally, let's go to our American corner. Roy Jones Jr. is here via the wonders of television. Roy, thanks for your time this morning. What do you know about Danny Green?
I know that Danny Green is a very tough competitor, a wonderful individual. I look forward to dealing with Danny because I've came and watched Danny fight a couple of times, and I think he's an extraordinary young man, a great fighter, a big heart, a wonderful trainer, Jeff Bennett, and I look forward to dealing with it.
And Roy, how realistic is a fight between Danny Green and yourself?
It's very realistic after I get past Jeff Lacey. I got Jeff Lacey in front of me. I got to wipe him out the way. Then I come to Australia and fight Danny Green.
Right, what do you make of...
It'd be wonderful for the Australian media and the public because they never got a chance to see me perform in person. So I love bringing my show wherever I can bring it to. So I look forward to coming, and I know that Danny Green is a very formidable opponent, a person that's capable of beating anybody on any given day. So, I mean, to me, it's exciting.
Would you be willing to bring that fight to Australia, and if so, before the end of the year?
Most definitely. We're talking about November.
What keeps you going at the moment?
The fact that I want to get my body back right and retaliate and become my old self. Once I get to be my old self, if they beat me like that, then I can accept it. But until I got to be back to being my old self, I couldn't accept the defeats because I just wasn't feeling like I was being myself.
Okay, Roy, stay there. We're going to come back to you shortly with some questions from the floor and journalists around Australia. But, Danny, you've obviously been following Roy Jones Jr. like anyone involved in boxing for a long time. Have you allowed yourself to really get excited about a possible fight against this superstar?
Oh, look, 100%. I think this is more than possible. It's pretty much going to happen. So, unless I get beaten or Roy gets beaten, which I don't foresee happening. So... Roy's got a tough fight in Jeff Lacey. Lacey's is a banger and he's an animal, but I think Roy will have, just way too much in pretty much every area that Lacey has. So I think he'll have too much speed, he'll have as much power, and he'll have just a little bit too much ring craft and the experience. He'll be too much for Jeff Lacey, but it will be a very exciting fight. myself against Dominguez, well, I can punch, he can punch, he's got a decent chin, I've got a very good chin, so I intend having too much of him in that area as well, and I think I'm a little bit more hungry than this bloke, but, you know, it's a dangerous fight as well, so it's very exciting, and once those two fights take place and hopefully both, you know, parties that we want to be victorious are victorious, then it's going to happen. And yeah, I've had a few sleepless nights thinking about fighting Roy Jones Jr. because, like I said, I don't want to belittle or trash talk any of my opponents, and how could you possibly belittle or trash talk Roy Jones Jr.? He's one of the all-time greats. But my job as a fighter, I've got to separate myself from a person who respects Roy Jones and go into the different side of a guy who wants to not just beat Roy Jones but to knock Roy Jones out, because that's going to do amazing things for my career. So no disrespect to Roy, but when he comes down under, my job is to try and knock Roy Jones Jr. out, and that's what I'll be trying to do. And I'm very, very confident that that I can achieve that. But on the other side of the coin, he's going to be doing the same thing. He wants to knock me out and look great, and you know, obviously go on to bigger and better things after that. So for me, it's very exciting, and you know, the fact that we're going to, you know, pretty much have Roy Jones Jr. fighting here in Australia, and I'm fighting the bloke, makes me very, very excited, and it's one of the biggest fights out there that I could possibly have.
It's going to be uncharted territory for him, uncharted territory for me too, in the sense of being my first fight out of the country since I turned pro. So y'all have a big thing happening there. If y'all can get that to happen, I mean, that'd be the first time I ever went abroad. So it's like fighting out of the country as a professional is virgin territory for me. So I mean, he's gonna be hungry, but I got something to prove too. So I'm not the only one. I mean, he's not the only one that's gonna be hungry. I'm hungry to prove that I can come outside the country and win.
Roy, how would you say you are a different boxer these days than compared with 20 years ago when you first started? What's changed? What do you have now that you didn't have with less experience?
A little more knowledge, you know, a little bit knowledge of the game. That's really about all, because I was a complete fighter since day one. But I do have a little more knowledge to go along with those wonderful skills that I possess.
The floor open again.
Roy, you were saying you were looking forward to coming over and having dinner with Danny. You two seem pretty friendly. Is it going to be this friendly in the ring?
Oh no, not in the ring. Like you said, his job is to try to knock me out. My job is to try to knock him out. I mean, I know he's coming to do what he got to do. And I mean, you know, it's simple. It's like the man said. Out here, people don't pay us to fight out here. We're not MMA fighters. But in that boxing ring, they pay to see a performance. So he got to go get to be the best he can be. I'm going to go get to be the best I can be. And when I come, I'm going to be right. So he better be right.
Okay, the floor's open again.
Dan, if you win this cruiserweight belt, that will make you a three-time world champion in different weights. So I'm speaking to Danny Green, but if Danny, you win this title, you become a champion in 3 different weights. Is that a major motivation for you?
Oh, definitely, Daniel. Yeah, it's definitely a motivation. You know, to win as many world titles as you can, and to retire and have these, you know, on the wall when I'm finished and retired and got the grandkids looking at them, hopefully appreciate them. I'll obviously never have as many as Roy Jones Jr., but you know, the more I can acquire along the way, the better it is, and the more successful it makes my career. So yeah, it's a massive thing for me, and to hold a world title at a different weight division is another big thing. So yeah, it's a big bonus, and it's great for Australian boxing. You know, Australian boxing's come so far, and we've got so many great fighters out there, and we've got a fair few world champions now. So for Green Machine Boxing to bring Roy Jones Jr. to Australia is a massive thing for boxing. I mean, he'd have to be the biggest name that's ever come to these shores, probably bar Jack Johnson back in the early 20th century, in the early 1900s. So it's a massive thing, and I think it's already gaining such massive momentum that by the time it comes around, I think this could be the biggest fight that's ever taken place in the country.